Welcome, everyone, and we're excited to have you all here. I'm Gary Anderson, Chairman of the Landmarks Illinois Board of Directors. We will begin the annual meeting shortly, and as our members and guests are coming into the webinar, I want to review a few short housekeeping items. The Zoom webinar is being recorded. The recording will be uploaded to the YouTube if you would like to share the presentation with others who couldn't be here today. YouTube viewers can also select to have the presentation translated into another preferred language. To optimize the person who is speaking, we recommend choosing the speaker view setting, which is found in the upper right-hand corner of your screen under View. You can also turn on or turn off the closed captions at the bottom of your screen. Finally, feel free to type questions into the chat and we will be answer them throughout the program or during the question and answer period at the end of the meeting. Okay, it is time to get started. Welcome to the Landmarks annual meeting. I would like to thank our generous annual meeting sponsor, Emeritus Board Member Victoria Granicki. Victoria, or as Vicky as we know her, has provided she has provided the needed financial support for the staff time that goes into producing the annual report, hosting the annual meeting, and ensuring we can make this event free to all members of the public. Thank you again, Vicki. We are excited to celebrate the impact we've made together this year and to share more about the direction that we see for the preservation in the future. So let's go through the business at hand. I hereby call the 53rd annual Landmarks Illinois business meeting to order. First up is the election of our board members. Landmarks Illinois is led by a volunteer board of up to 37 members who govern, set policy, and ensure that we achieve our strategic vision to help people save places for people. These board members contribute their skills, wisdom, and resources to lead our organization forward. I thank all of you for your generosity and commitment to Landmarks Illinois and for being such an amazing team to work with. I am pleased to introduce Vice Chair Erica Block to introduce our excellent slate of candidates. Erica?
Thank you, Gary. It has been a privilege to participate in the recruitment process with our Board Development Committee, and I want to thank Gary Anderson, Frank Butterfield, Mariah DeGrino, Bonnie McDonald, Sandra Rand, Will Tippins, and Allison Tunin-Talamo for their participation. The Landmarks Illinois website included information on how members could nominate a board candidate for consideration. We received no new candidate names from the membership, so the slate of candidates stands as presented today. The following are members for re-nomination to the board. For their election to their third two-year term, Emilio Padilla, Terry Salas, Steve Schneider, Allison Tunin-Talamo, and Alex Wolking. For election to his second two-year term is Gary Anderson. The next slate is for the newly nominated board members. For election for their first two-year term, Catherine Baker, Jean Follett, Alyssa Frystack, Cheryl Johnson, Zeb McLaren, Jackie Montes Dioka, Brad Millay, Sarah Phelan, Diana Schott, and Judy Ty. Members Gary Anderson and Bonnie McDonald have made a motion to approve and seconded the slate of candidates as presented. Only Landmarks Illinois members are able to vote on board candidates. According to our bylaws, a member is someone who has properly completed membership application on file and whose dues have been paid in full for their current year of membership as of today. Please vote now on your screen for the entire slate of candidates using the poll that was just launched on your screen. You can click to approve, do not approve, or abstain from voting. If you have voted, please click submit. We will pause for 10 seconds to allow votes to be counted.
Erica, the poll is now closed and the slate has been approved by the members.
Thank you, Mariah. The yeses have it, and the members have voted to accept the slate as presented. Welcome to our new and returning board members. Members can now click on the X on their screen to close out the poll. For the information of our members, the Landmarks Illinois Board of Directors approved the following officers at its June 18th meeting. Chair, Jackie Taylor Holston. Vice Chair, Ron Kluwer. Secretary, Emilio Padilla. Treasurer, Terry Salas. President and CEO, Bonnie McDonald. Chief Operating Officer, Frank Butterfield. Now I want to close by thanking the board members who are departing the board for their years of service to Landmarks Illinois. Sierra Boatwright began serving on the board in 2021, then Vice President of Real Estate and Inclusion for Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives. Sierra generously donated her expertise and time as co-chair of Landmarks Illinois Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Collaborative. She had to resign from the board in October 2023 after being appointed to the City of Chicago Commissioner of the Department of Planning and Development. Tony Borich was elected to the board in 2019 as a lawyer for the firm of Jenner and Block. Tony has since been active member of the Executive Committee and co-chair of the Strategic Planning Task Force. Tony is leaving the board after changing companies to work at a different field of law. Bob Eschbach, also an attorney and former mayor of Ottawa, was elected to the board in 2020 and has served on many committees, including the Reinvestment Committee and the Executive Committee. He has helped to advise Landmarks Illinois on Main Street economic development issues. Bob's need to increase time at his firm is the reason he is leaving the board. Mike Jackson, based in Springfield and the retired Deputy State Historic Preservation Officer, has also served on the board since 2020 and on Landmarks Illinois' Executive Committee. Mike's board resignation comes as he has moved into the interim executive director role at the St. Louis-based National Building Arts Center. Gregory Miller is an attorney with the firm of Miller and Ferguson and has served on the board since 2021 and has been an imperative legal advisor for our preservation easements program. We also bid a sad farewell to board member Christy Weber of Christy Weber Landscapes as she completes her 6th year on the board. Christy has provided guidance and equipment on volunteer construction projects and has served as an ambassador for our Preservation Forward event. The humor and levity that she adds to our board's meetings will be missed. We look forward to continuing to work with these former board leaders in other ways as volunteers. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, who is taking the banner from me as Board Vice Chair, Ron Kluwer.
Thank you, Erica. Excuse me. I certainly have big shoes to fill. On behalf of our incoming chair, Jackie Taylor Holston, myself, and our entire board of directors, our gratitude goes out to Gary Anderson and Erica Block for the service as our board leadership. Gary and Erica have encouraged and guided our organization, courageous journey, exploring how preservation can be more reflective of and responsive to a broader group of people across the state. The results can be seen at our programs, events, and on our board as more people feel welcome and that they belong in a preservation community. They have willingly served as advocates, lobbyists, fundraisers, mentors, managers, and negotiators, navigating the opportunities and challenges that accompany change. Fortunately, Gary will remain on the board for several years to mentor Jackie and me as we take on the reins. However, Erica has reached the end of her 3rd term and must take what we call a sunset year before she comes back to the board. We hope. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for your service, Erica, and take a well-deserved break this year. To you both, we all say thank you and a job well done. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing Suzanne German, Landmarks Illinois Director of Reinvestment, who leads our organization's grants, loan, and easements program. Suzanne will share our successes this year with the grants that we have awarded and our expanding reinvestment program loan fund. Suzanne, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Ron, and thank you all for joining us today. I am excited to give you updates on our progress this year with our grant programs and some exciting news for next year's programs. Our reinvestment program includes 4 grant programs as well as our reinvestment loan program. This year, we were able to award $82,000 to support 26 projects through 4 grant programs: the Preservation Heritage Fund, the Barbie C. and Thomas E. Donnelly Preservation Fund, the Banterra Bank Preserve Southern Illinois Grant, and the Timuel D. Black Jr. Fund for Chicago's South Side. And I will go into each of these programs. Our first and largest fund is the Preservation Heritage Fund. This is our oldest fund. And this year we awarded 15 grants throughout the state to provide capital support for preservation efforts. 2 of our highlights this year is Project 15 in El Paso, which is the former David Struthers Barber Shop that the Project 15 Inc. is converting into the first voting rights museum in the state. David Struthers was the first Black man to cast a ballot in Illinois after the passing of the 15th Amendment. This is our second grant to this organization as they're doing such amazing work in restoring this building. On the right-hand side, we are going to Share Your Souls, which is in Pullman here in Chicago. And this is just, they have a fantastic mission of donating shoes to those in need, but they are also restoring the Stables building in Pullman. And you can see in the photo that they are not only doing this work, but they are bringing the community in and doing the all hands-on work. So what we funded them for was to replace the shingles at the gables that you can see in that photo. And these are some youth from the community that are sanding down those the wood for that project. So it's really exciting, great mission on both of these projects that we are excited to support. The Donnelly Fund is our next fund, and thanks to Barbie and Tommy Donnelly for supporting grants throughout Illinois in support of planning and education grants. We found that there's a need for National Register nominations, designations, and studies to support projects and programming to be prepared to request additional funding from other organizations. So this one, for example, is the Cairo Historical Preservation Project that is in the process of restoring the Ward Chapel, but found that the need for a National Register designation would allow them to increase their funding through other sources. So we were able to award 3 grants this year in support of studies and designations. Our next program is the Preserve Southern Illinois Grant. And this was a pilot program in partnership with the Banterra Bank to focus our grant program on economic development in commercial corridors in Southern Illinois. And you can see here 2 heritage businesses in Southern Illinois. And one of the joys of this program was, and you can see Quinn Adamowski holding a big check with Jennifer Spence, who is our partner from Banterra. And we got to enjoy going to each and every one of these projects and hand them giant checks, which was super fun and really increased our commitment to Southern Illinois over the past 2 years. Andreessen's Cafe in Johnson City, like I said, is a heritage business, and we were able to assist them in rehabilitating their storefront. Rendleman Orchards in Alto Pass this is one of 60 historic buildings on their property. They bring in a great amount of tourism into this area for visitation to this orchard. And this building will be used, it was originally migrant housing, and it will be used as a cider house through our grant program. So sad to see this program go, but we are still committed to our dedication in Southern Illinois. Our next program is the Timuel Black Fund, which is specifically dedicated to Chicago's South Side in honor of Timuel Black Jr., who is an activist from Bronxville. And in his honor, we created this fund about 5 years ago. This year, in this coming year, we received an anonymous donation to expand this program. We are super excited about this. In looking at lessons learned from the Southern Illinois grant. We want to dedicate this program to economic development in on Chicago's South Side. So we changed some of our eligibility requirements. So we are now open for for-profit entities to apply for this, looking for small businesses or property owners of historic buildings with businesses on the commercial corridor. We also will be expanding our grants up to $10,000. And all of our grants require a match, but this grant will, typically they're 1-to-1. This one will be a 75-25 match. This really increases our ability to have a greater impact on the South Side of Chicago. So we are very thankful for this donation and very excited to get this program expanded. Our next application deadline is quickly approaching on July 1. So if you know anybody who might be eligible for this or interested in this, have them either reach out to me or go to our website at landmarks.org under resources, our grant applications. And our next big news is our reinvestment loan program. Hopefully you have all heard by now, but this year we received $1 million grant from the Richard H. Driehaus Foundation in support of the reinvestment loan program. This program's been around since 2016, but this $1 million really helped us to greatly expand our reach. Our reinvestment committee has done several site visits and met with a lot of different organizations on the south and west sides of Chicago to determine who is in need currently. And you will soon be hearing about 2 projects that will be our first 2 loans after the $1 million grant. Bandwidth Chicago in Garfield Park is rehabilitating a former casket factory and turning it into their community performing arts center. We are really excited to see this corner in Garfield Park revitalized with a longtime organization in the community. And Plant Chicago is in the Back of the Yards neighborhood, and they are rehabilitating a former firehouse into their educational programs. So keep an eye out for announcements to come in the next few weeks about these 2 exciting projects. So thank you very much. And I am now going to pass the mic over to Frank Butterfield.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, for your remarkable work providing much needed financial resources to people saving places across the state. Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure for me to highlight some of the organizational successes made possible through your membership support. I encourage you all to read more in our annual report, which will be available soon on our website at the bottom of our About Us page. If you registered for this event, you will also receive the annual report in your inbox when it's published. So time doesn't permit me to talk about all of our advocacy projects. At any one given time, we have somewhere between 150 and 200 ongoing projects that our advocacy team, Quinn Adamowski and Kendra Parson, are managing. We are working on many of the projects that you read about in the news and on social media, but our work is often about exerting influence behind the scenes or bringing resources to the table to get later successes. So here are a few of those projects. For many years, the future of the James R. Thompson Center in Chicago was precarious. We joined with collaborators including Docomomo Chicago, Preservation Chicago, and Preservation Futures to keep fighting for this unique building. In May, our hard work was rewarded with the start of the building's renovation by Prime Group for end user Google, a win-win for us. Also in Chicago, we brought prior experience with the Frank Lloyd Wright designed Waller Apartments to assist with one of the vacant and deteriorating units. Thank you to board members Jeff Goulet at SGW, Sarah Van Dommelen at WJE, and Alex Walking at Keller Williams One Chicago, as well as Emeritus Board Member Jack Trivia with Berglund Construction for donating their services to help find a solution, as well as our nonprofit partners, the Frank Lloyd Wright Building Conservancy and Preservation Chicago. A developer is now under contract to purchase the row house with plans for restoration. We continue to advocate for Gilson Park in Wilmette, which was included on our 2022 Most Endangered list. In May, the historic landscape was listed in the National Register of Historic Places. Landmarks Illinois commissioned the nomination, which was completed by landscape historian Julia Backrack and retired Ball State professor Malcolm Cairns. You can learn more about Gilson Park from our November Preservation Snapshots lecture available on the Landmarks Illinois YouTube page. Another suburban mid-century resource was the Will County Courthouse in Joliet. Listed on our most endangered historic places in Illinois, we worked with local advocates at the Courthouse Preservation Partners and Preservation Futures to show that the building was a historic resource and to innovatively host a request for expressions of interest, an RFEI, on our own, showing that there were several developers very interested in reuse. Though the building was needlessly demolished, that RFEI process has proved to be a valuable tool for Landmarks Illinois' advocacy. A project very near and dear to my heart, we celebrated with the dedicated advocates in Millstadt for the after the final coat of paint was applied to the once endangered, now saved Millstadt Water Tower. One of the ubiquitous and few remaining Tin Men water tower designs, this most endangered listed structure shows what a tenacious and optimistic partnership can achieve. And Landmarks Illinois' frequent presence in communities throughout Illinois is led by our regional advocacy manager, Quinn Adamowski. In May alone, Quinn met with advocates in nearly a dozen communities throughout the state. And over the past year, Quinn logged over 10,000 miles within Illinois doing so. So for some perspective, at 10,000 miles, you could travel the entire length of Route 66 from Illinois to California 4 times and still have a few miles to spare. In recent years, both the Illinois Historic Preservation Tax Credit Program and the River Edge Redevelopment Zone Historic Tax Credit have been extended because of Landmarks Illinois' legislative advocacy. Recent legislation passed and is awaiting the governor's signature to make the RERZ credit available in 7 additional communities, bringing that total number to 14. Thank you to Quinn Adamowski for working to support the communities that are to be added to the program, including East Moline, LaSalle, Moline, Ottawa, Peru, Rock Island, and Quincy. And thank you to our partners at the State Historic Preservation Office at the Illinois Department of Natural Resources for administering these important incentives. Our programs manager, Layla Wills, has been widening the lens of our Preservation Snapshots lecture topics to reflect new and ongoing projects that expand the ideas of preservation. You can find these 1-hour lectures on our YouTube channel, including presentations about the home of Drs. Percy and Anna Julian in Oak Park, the 10th anniversary of the Chicago Public School closures, the Illinois Freedom Trail, and the 20th anniversary of saving the Dr. Edith Farnsworth House in Plano. Our Richard H. Driehaus Foundation Preservation Awards, one of our longest running programs and foundation partnerships, is similarly hiding cultural as well as architectural preservation. Look to the 2023 winners on our website to read about the award-winning Bronzeville Legends Project, for example. We welcome staff member Lauren Dalton to our team as our Marketing and Communications Manager, a new position created to expand our capacity. Lauren has become part of our dynamic communications duo with Director of Communications, Caitlin McAvoy. She brings a marketing and data analytics background to help us reach a greater audience with relevant messaging. Lauren spearheaded Landmarks Illinois' first large-scale paid marketing campaign. For over a month, Landmarks Illinois had ads in Chicago Transit Authority trains and train stations to boost public awareness about our work and resources. As a result, we saw an immediate jump in our website traffic. With Lauren taking on social media, event promotion, and other communication tasks, Caitlin was able to dedicate her time and reporter expertise to our media relations and storytelling. She created a compelling video for our Preservation Forward event, available on our YouTube page. She focused on telling compelling stories in our print newsletter, The Arch, and expanded available media resources for our most endangered historic places in Illinois. Her efforts continue to expand our statewide media attention. We are also celebrating the incredible impact of the Skyline Council of Landmarks Illinois, our Young and Emerging Professionals Committee. The committee now has more than 65 members, thanks to the effective engagement and educational programs and welcoming atmosphere. Skyline Council members provide pro bono service on advocacy projects, host engaging events such as their annual Valentine's Day event at the Schlitz Tide House in Chicago's Englewood neighborhood. They also participate in a mentoring program with our board members. Their growth can be credited to active and organized leadership from Melissa Freistack, the chair, Emily Sadek, the vice chair, and Gloria Frank, the Skyline Council secretary. We also want to recognize the longtime support of Tiffany Williams, our former director of corporate giving and events, who was the staff to the Skyline Council for nearly 10 years. Landmarks Illinois has a healthy financial base and is maintaining incremental growth in our net assets while investing our resources in increasing our staff capacity. That capacity also includes technological and record-keeping innovations that make us more efficient. We can thank our contract bookkeeper, Nikki Galicchio, our contract IT consultant, Russell Renault, and our web developer, Jeff McNear, for helping us to make these improvements. We also want to thank Patricia and Sebastian of Ugly Dog for their consistently beautiful and dynamic graphic design work for our events and programs. Thank you for your support of the work we've accomplished together this past year. Now, I'm pleased to turn the program over to Bonnie McDonald, our President and CEO, to talk about our future and how Landmarks Illinois is moving preservation forward in Illinois and across the country.
Thank you so much, Frank, and good afternoon, everyone. We really appreciate you being here and are excited to report on the accomplishments that you make possible here for us at Landmarks Illinois. And I also want to thank Frank for his steady leadership as our Chief Operating Officer. You don't see enough in that report about the work he does as well, and I certainly want to thank him for his dependable leadership. He keeps our operations on track, and we do value what he brings to us every day. So Frank detailed just a few of this year's accomplishments, everyone, but I do encourage you to follow us on social media in real time, through our newsletters as well, to understand the full weight of our team's work. What you saw today, as we said, is just a snippet of what we're doing with the investment that you make in our work as people saving places for people. So, we are helping people to save these places that are important to them, that are important to their communities. These places may be important for their history, for their cultural significance, or their design, as well as the stories that they help to tell. This is the way that preservation is adapting and growing. Now, our work matters, and the people who do this work deserve recognition for the thousands of hours spent dedicating their expertise to serve our mission. And I want to take a few minutes just to make sure that you all know who does this work behind the scenes, the people doing the work every day with our partners. So Frank talked about several of our 10 team members, but I want to make sure that each one of them is recognized for their contributions, starting with Maria Rich, who celebrated her 35th anniversary working with Landmarks Illinois earlier this month. Some of you out there as our members, you may have known Maria for a long part of that time, since 1989. Maria is our membership manager, and she has helped literally tens of thousands of people connect with our work. She shares her wisdom generously, and I tell you, she is a mentor to every one of us here on the team. All of us who come in, go to Maria. She is the glue, yet she never stops learning and trying new things. So during her tenure, she has led our annual appeals, that letter that y'all get in the mail from us in the spring and the fall. She's handled our IT work, our financial security compliance, and previously produced our newsletter and was our social media manager. She is a person of all trades. We're convinced that she can do anything. So I just ask you all, if you know Maria, if you appreciate her work, please give her a big thank you for that 35th anniversary. You can email her at mrich@landmarks.org, or just send that little congratulations into the chat today for the extraordinary mark that she has made, our longest serving staff member here at Landmarks Illinois. So congratulations, Maria, and thank you. And equally, you already heard from Suzanne German today. who reached another milestone that is significant here. Again, one of our longest tenured staff members. Suzanne reached the 20-year mark this year with Landmarks Illinois. You heard her as our Director of Reinvestment, and she's expanding the ways that we are helping people to do this work, the way that we're financially supporting our partners. She spent 20 years protecting our easement properties, working together with the people who have these easements in their communities, and she previously ran the Landmarks Illinois Richard H. Driehaus Awards program. Like Maria, Suzanne is a mentor. She gives us wise counsel, and she is a fierce advocate for people, for preservation, and for justice. So equally, could you put a little note in that chat just to give congratulations to Suzanne for this milestone in her career and with Landmarks Illinois, or you can send her a private message at her email at sgerman@landmarks.org. That's German with 2 N's. I've already recognized in part Chief Operating Officer Frank Butterfield, who is at the 11-year mark with us in April. You know, Frank supports and guides our team and manages things like our budgets, our insurance, and our contracts that for some reason he enjoys, and we are all glad that he does. You might have known that Frank started our first regional field office in Springfield when he started 11 years ago and moved up into our COO role. Caitlin McAvoy, who you've heard referenced as well, is approaching the 8-year mark, professionalizing and expanding our communications and our storytelling. Now, one of the best planners, storytellers, and project managers that you will ever encounter, you can thank Caitlin for her reliable, her interesting, and her expansive content about our work. Really, anytime you're reading about things, she's connecting with reporters out there to ensure our story of the work that our team is doing is being told. So thank you, Caitlin, and for putting together this beautiful presentation today. Alma Rubronia, our events manager, and Quinn Adamowski, who's our regional advocacy manager, are each approaching their 3rd anniversary because they came on actually on the same day, and they are continually growing in their positions in engagement and advocacy, respectively. Quinn travels the state, as you heard, 10,000 miles, providing strategic assistance, tools, and lobbying on our behalf at the state level and also in Congress for better preservation policies. And Alma, who is being promoted to Director of Events on July 1st, spearheads our many popular networking events that bring in thousands of people each year to meet other preservationists. Now, Kendra Parson is nearly 2 years into her role as our advocacy manager, handling this significant number of preservation concerns in Chicago and Chicago suburbs. And her adeptness and ability to navigate very complex preservation issues has led her to already have a number of big wins during her tenure. She is not with us today as she is on caregiver leave, but we want to, if she's with us, congratulations, Kendra, and we're looking forward to seeing you back very soon. Layla Wills has been our programs manager for the past 1.5 years, and it was mentioned how she's brought more stories to the Preservation Snapshots lectures, and also as she's managing our Landmarks Illinois Richard H. Driehaus Preservation Awards, which, by the way, the jury's meeting today, so we're excited to bring out the awards to you in the future. With the help of potential grant funds, you are hopefully going to see Layla's dream of expanding the Snapshots lectures to some in-person snapshot lectures across the state. We hear from all of you. You want to see us out in the state. You want to have events out there. We are trying to deliver that for you. And quickly approaching her 1-year anniversary, we have all valued what Lauren Dalton has brought to her new role as Marketing and Communications Manager. Frank referenced this. Her analytical acumen is combined with her thoughtfulness and her willingness to contribute valuable perspectives in courageous conversations. I've been tremendously impressed with what Lauren has brought to the table here. We're looking forward to seeing how Lauren continues to advance new strategies for engaging people in our work. So if you ever get answers on social media, you're likely talking directly to Lauren, and she's talking to our advocacy team as well. And I just want to say, we can't do our work without our fantastic interns. We have had dozens, if not hundreds of interns over our 53 years, and they really deserve you to hear their names and what they do. So to our wonderful interns, Caroline Hugh and Sam Lilly, who are working with us this summer, for contributing to the success of our programs through their internships with the Most Endangered, the awards program, and other ways that they're contributing. Thank you, Caroline and Sam. And Landmarks Illinois talks about our work as people saving places for people, people being the focus of our work. That is not only externally focused, but it is also an internal priority for us in the organization, which is why I wanted to take this time to ensure that you saw the faces of the people who do this work every day, to acknowledge them, to make sure that they know that they're appreciated, and hopefully you can connect with them as well. This is just an annual account to our members of the work that we're doing, again, with your membership and donation dollars. So thank you again to the incredible Landmarks Illinois team. It is my privilege to work every day with you on your incredible accomplishments. So we continue to face a growing demand for our unique services. You heard Frank talk about, we have 150 to 200 projects we have ongoing. We have thousands of requests every year as people, the growth of investment in historic places. And while we have doubled the size of our staff in the time that I have been here with Landmarks Illinois, it is still not enough, especially amongst our advocacy team. You know, we have 2 people who cover the entire state in addition to Suzanne's and Frank's work as well, in their own work supporting the advocacy. At the moment, our biggest challenge, everyone, is the need for reuse and reinvestment in our built environment. We continue to push for that mission-driven services, but the need is outpacing our capacity to continue to answer all of those requests, especially proactively. We hear from you, you want us to be proactive, you want preservation to be proactive, not reactive. We are continually trying to answer those requests for services and be proactive at the same time. You know, to meet this demand, we need to increase our resources, and I would say exponentially, because again, the need is so great, and we could add far more people in our advocacy team, like our next door neighbors in Indiana, who have, I think, 7 or 8 regional offices out there. So this is something we continue to pursue, is growth in our income, but that growth is incremental. Thanks to our work with contract grant writer, Tara Ibrahimi, we're expanding our foundation partnerships. That's one area of potential growth for us. And our donors have continued to increase giving through direct appeals. As I mentioned, those letters that you might get from Maria Rich, thank you. You are all responding so strongly, and we very much thank you. We also, through Tiffany Williams' hard work, through our board of directors, have been growing our corporate sponsorships and our corporate partnerships. So that is a continued area for growth for us in the income. You know, in the interim, until we get to that exponential growth that I mentioned, we're deploying our investment returns and a small amount of our unrestricted principal. That's kind of our rainy day fund in strategic capacity growth, while the plan is to continually transform our operations to align our principled approach to preservation with our capacity. Now, our board members are also a strategic resource. So I was talking about the team that we have, our employees, we've talked about some of our contractors and consultants today, our interns, but we also need to thank our board of directors, who just give an incredible number of hours, their networks, their time, services, expertise, and leadership to help us grow. And that helps to expand our capacity, everyone, through their knowledge, their networks, and their time. And we are recruiting board members with expertise that's aligned with the vision of the future for this organization. You saw it today. Erica Block went through our new board members, who I just want to welcome them today. We all look forward to working with you. And they're bringing on this year's sustainability experience, housing experience, to guide and govern our transformation towards these relevant areas of preservation that you've heard me talk about last year, and that I'll touch on a little bit today. So you've met our new class of board members today who value preservation, each one of them, and they're helping to expand our skill base in climate justice and resilience, affordable housing, community-led design work, Main Street programs, and museums and finance. So additionally, we're intentional about building the board. If you have questions about, how do we do this, you can put it in the chat, and I'll be happy to answer that later about our board development process. We want to make sure that our board reflects the voices of the communities that Landmarks Illinois serves across the state of Illinois, to help us deliver what are relevant solutions to people living in those communities. And we think that voices telling us that directly from the community are the best way to do that. So we're proud that our board is the closest that it has ever been to reflecting the geographic and demographic makeup of the people of Illinois. And I'd be happy to go further into that if you have questions. Now, Landmarks Illinois is proud to be leading a national conversation amongst other partners about the change that is needed in preservation practice and where we are putting our ideas about this evolution of preservation into practice as well, into action. So I've referenced our guiding principles, which is our code of conduct that our board of directors adopted in April of 2021. We did a program on that at our annual meeting at that time. So you can go back to our YouTube page if you want to learn more about the guiding principles. You can also see them on our website on the About Us page. We now use these principles to evaluate, to inform, and to guide really all that we're doing as an organization. However, these principles needed further exploration to become goals and strategies, going from principles to goals and strategies, things that we can implement. This role was partially served by the Relevancy Project, which was a 4-year research effort to identify preservation's relevant future. The final outcome was actually published this year, proudly. It's called the Relevancy Guidebook, How We Can Transform the Future of Preservation, which is a Landmarks Illinois publication that we put as a free digital download onto our website, published in November of 2023. And again, it's free to everybody. It is a digital download that you can find on our website because one of our principles is to provide our knowledge for free to our community. So this is one way we're living that principle. So you can also download the executive summary if you don't feel like reading 240 some pages. The executive summary is only 3 pages, an easy lift. I hope you'll go there, read it, and continue having a discussion with us about what this means for you in your community. The 8 essay topics, so it's actually organized into 8 areas of opportunity that were identified from interviews that were done all around the country, including here in the state of Illinois and Chicago and the suburbs. What would make preservation more relevant to more people? A means to have greater impact with what we do and to engage more people to save more places. And also maybe we'd get less pushback to the work that we're doing if our work was seen as more relevant to people. The guidebook shares that wisdom that's in the field about our challenges that I've mentioned and the solutions that people are implementing all across the country. So I just want to say we know that we can do this, but oftentimes people just didn't know where to begin. So you can find an extensive list of ideas, of resources, models that are out there in the back of the guidebook. So there are several appendices that you can pull out if you want to check what other people are doing. Now, nonprofits, governments, and private companies have actually requested presentations about the work that's in the Relevancy Guidebook, the findings. To date, I've had the privilege of giving 5 keynote presentations on this in Arkansas, Colorado, New York, Minnesota, and Pennsylvania. And there are also a couple of national presentations. So our national organizations are paying attention to the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. Some of you who are commissioners might know about that organization that supports preservation commissions and their local work. Also, the American Planning Association, it was really proud that they hosted a webinar where I could talk with planners about these ideas and how they could implement them with their own planning departments. There are 2 more keynotes that are scheduled. Actually, the keynote in Arizona at the statewide conference is scheduled for Thursday of this week, and then Massachusetts in September. So only 43 more states to go, everybody, to share these ideas that we're proud to be exploring here at Landmarks Illinois. If you want to read an analysis of them as well, there's been additional focus on some of the individual aspects of the guidebook, like Green Building and Design Magazine talked about green building and affordable housing from the guidebook. There was something in an article in Next City that I published, Planetizen, and also built the Blue Beam blog. As a tongue twister, have published stories about the Relevancy Guidebook as a new way of thinking about historic preservation. So all of that to say, there's significant demand for this kind of information about the evolution, how we can do things differently, how we can do them better, how we can connect more with the things that people care about. And I'm so proud that Landmarks Illinois is an organization that is showing this kind of courage to have conversations about how we can change the future of this work and freely sharing what we're finding with others. So I just would like to say a deep thank you to the volunteers, the people who talked with me as an interviewee, to the advisors who helped out on this, to those who supported this effort for their contributions and their encouragement. So we just wanted to make sure today we talked about the impact of this. You've heard as it was being put together, but what is the outcome then? We wanted to share that with you. I also want to give special acknowledgement to now coming back on board member Jean Follett, who has been the editor of this very long book and a mentor through the project. So deepest thanks, Jean. I would also like to just briefly thank the funders who, they make this work possible for people around the country to explore new ideas, to mentor with others. So thank you very much to the Peter H. Brink Mentorship Fund at the National Trust for Historic Preservation. That is open to partner organizations. If you are one, you can apply for that. And also to the James Marston Fitch Charitable Foundation for the award of the 2020 Mid-Career Fellowship that allowed me to do more of this research. So the thinking around the guiding principles and the outcomes of the relevancy guidebook are informing our strategic direction. That's what I'm here to report on, is where are we going with this organization? Where are we taking this work as a leader in the field? So we've been thoughtfully working on a plan to focus our resources in support of Illinois' preservation movement being an inclusive and equitable and accessible and effective practice for everybody who wants to save a place that's important to them in their community. Not everybody has had access to these resources. Not everybody knows where to turn to. And not everybody feels welcome in this work. So we are working not to just talk, but to show what a redefined vision of preservation can look like. We can then set out our transformational strategy that aligns our work around this positioning of Landmarks Illinois for a future of moving preservation forward. So our goal is to complete and report this work as we're doing planning work and transformational planning work to you next time this year, or maybe even sooner. So I invite you all to continue your engagement, stay on top of what we're doing through our social media, through our newsletter, through our e-blasts. And I certainly want to hear your feedback, as our team does too. Your feedback and your support is imperative to the future of preservation in Illinois. So with that, I am pleased to open it up to all of you. We want to hear from you. As I said, we want to hear your feedback. So this is a time when we hear back your questions. So we've covered a lot of information today from our partners. So the floor is open to you on our audience to ask us questions. Our advocacy work, our programs, our events, the special projects that we do, and funding, the idea of how we're moving preservation forward. So please put your questions into the chat. That is open to you. Anybody can put something in the chat and we are going to answer those live, everyone. So let us get started with that. And I know that that Quinn Adamowski is helping out, as well as Frank Butterfield. So let's get going in this part. We're going to go back and look. Quinn, have you seen any, as you've been looking, are there any questions so far? Otherwise, I've got one for you.
No, there's no questions yet.
Well, then I get to start with some questions for our team, because I do think people are interested in learning, how we decide what work that we're doing out there. So again, we have about 10 minutes, everybody, to go through these questions, answers, and then we'll close out the business meeting. So Quinn, people heard about these, I would walk 10,000 miles. You drove 10,000 miles or took a train. How did you determine where to go? And then what are you observing as the trends in preservation in the area that you serve?
There's two ways, Bonnie. First is people reach out to us, as you mentioned. We field lots of calls, lots of emails of interest, and we begin working with our local partners. And if there's a need, to make a visit, then I prioritize that. And while I'm going to a place, I always try to find interesting places along the way that we've interacted with or that we're aware of, to continue building capacity throughout the state. So that's the primary way, really. And then the other way is just by meeting folks at conferences and adjacent organizations and working with them on their initiatives and learning more about what's going on around the state. And so in terms of trends, I think that one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of people are starting to really analyze historic preservation through this lens as a community effort, a community good. It's not just about a building. It's not just about one project. It's really about who we are as a people in a given locality. And I think that people are really starting to look at preservation through that lens to tell their story of their community through the historic and cultural resources. And I find that, I'm sure that's always been the case, but I think with the amount of travel that I've been doing, just kind of connecting the dots and seeing how it's very similar in all the communities and how they're approaching these really important historic and cultural resources.
Well, that's thank you for that answer, and I think that's very encouraging to see people seeing preservation as a, a community, having community-wide impact, but also led by communities at the same time. So we do have a couple questions come in, but I'm going to collect those. Frank, I'm just going to ask on behalf of Kendra Parson, who is our partner to Quinn. What trends, would she say the same thing, do you think, about this community, recognition, or what trends are we seeing in the Chicago and suburban region?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and I hope I can accurately represent Kendra's positions. But I think it was very well put by Quinn about the continued shift from, here is a significant piece of architecture and much more to the community development aspect. I think we're seeing that throughout neighborhoods in Chicago as well as the suburbs. Each of those has unique challenges too. I want to fully recognize. I think about some of the things we talked about in the suburbs in recent times with corporate campuses and things like that. There are development trends that are going to be unique, but a lot of the conversations we're having with local advocates is much more about investing in those communities and that community development that Quinn noted.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Thank you both for that. We do have two questions coming in that I see so far. The first is from our, immediate past board member, Mike. We are going to miss you, Mike Jackson. When are we going to see that state preservation conference again? I think, Mike, the perennial question, and maybe I'll take that for just a moment to identify that, folks, it's been through since I think 2015 or 2017 since we've had a statewide preservation conference like many of our neighbors do. And we also, like Mike, see that this makes it challenging for us to support one another, to create networks that are mentoring between communities like the Main Street program does. So the Main Street, here, Illinois Main Street does have a statewide conference, just to tell you that they're continuing on, and we've partnered with them before. I think this is a continued conversation with our partners at the Illinois State Historic Preservation Office, who does receive funding, or should receive funding, through the community development block grants. I believe they're through the National Park Service for hosting statewide educational initiatives. So I would say we still want to partner together. And going back to my conversation about capacity, there are some options here where we could host it with additional support. So please stay tuned, everyone. We're trying to figure out in that transformational work, what is the role of a state conference, virtual, in person, and also some networking work that Quinn is doing and piloting with the community of Jacksonville. So with that, I think, let's see, I'm going to say this might go to, well, any one of you and Suzanne. What support does Landmarks Illinois offer directly to county historical societies that receive no taxpayer support? What funding sources, state and national, do you suggest we may not know about? Quinn, what is the Issues Committee doing right now? The Reservation Issues Committee.
Sure, Bonnie. Yeah, the Issues Committee here at Landmarks Illinois, we're trying to identify possible funding sources throughout the state that are underutilized. And then we're trying to identify areas that could use funding. And of course, historical societies is one of those. To answer the aspects for funding, of course, we have grant programs that Suzanne referenced. And I would say that museums can tap into DCEO funds. So that's the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity here in Illinois. There's a lot of different programs that DCEO has that would be applicable to historical societies, especially for infrastructure projects. And then one source that is very underutilized is there's multiple programs through the U.S. Department of Agriculture. A lot of small loan programs, grant programs. The loan programs oftentimes are at 1 or 2%. So I would encourage anyone and everyone to reach out to the local USDA office based in Champaign to get a better understanding of the programs that they have. And then another one that comes to mind is a T-Mobile grant. They work with smaller communities throughout the state, really throughout all 50 states. So, I mean, I would be happy to talk more about that offline. This message came from Don. Please feel free to reach out to me. Happy to have a conversation with you, either Zoom or a phone call, and exchange all the information that we're at least aware of right now for current programs and funding programs and opportunities for historical societies and really all nonprofits.
Mm-hmm. Thanks. Quinn, perhaps either you or one of the team could put a link to our website resources tab. So we do have already a pretty robust number of resources, financial, available on our website. So look into the chat because we can put the link to that. We have time for maybe one or two quick questions here, and I want to say thank you to Suzanne for her wonderful presentation about the work that she does. So Suzanne, for just a moment, I think people are going to be curious about what you hope for the reinvestment program for the future statewide. And I know that's something you care about. Can you talk about that for just a moment, what you're thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. Currently, we are, for the first few years of this expanded program, we are focused on Chicago, the South and West Sides. We'd like to, as I am learning more about how to manage lending programs, I'd like to keep things close to home. But we are expecting after 2025 to expand this program statewide, and really looking forward to that. Quinn and I both have had multiple conversations with projects that would be seeking this funding at some point. So certainly reach out to me or Quinn, and we can talk to you about what's available now and how we can assist you until the time that we are able to expand our program.
Thank you. Thank you. I think everybody's looking for resources, or many people are looking for resources. And this is one thing that distinguishes Landmarks Illinois as special between our grants and our loan program. So thank you. Thank you, Sue. Suzanne's always popular because she brings the check with her. So people like that very much. I think we can close by saying, everyone, keep an eye out for the opportunities in your community to highlight preservation as, as an opportunity for economic development and tourism and community building, because we have some things that are coming up in 2026. So we want to just give you a forecast here that in 2026, we have the 100th anniversary of Route 66, which starts and goes through Illinois. That's a great time to talk about, any number of resources if you're along, adjacent to, nearby, or have some corollary resources in your community. There's also America 250, the semi-quincentennial, which is the 250th anniversary. Some of you may remember the bicentennial and what it did for preservation and historical societies. So that also happens in 2026. Great opportunities to start planning now what you might do. And we helped with the legislation to create the board that's going to be assisting with that at the statewide level, the commission. There's also there's a new state historic preservation board that's going to be working on historic sites, everyone, and we're watching that. So we continue to keep our pulse, keep the pulse of legislation and opportunities for preservation, and there are more to come. We know there are some partners who are going to be holding conferences here in 2025 and 2026. So lots of opportunities to highlight the importance of this work in your community. So with that, we as a team want to say thank you for these great questions, and we're going to turn this over now to our new board chair. Welcome, Jackie Taylor Holston.
Thank you, Bonnie. I really appreciate everything that you've presented to us today, and to the rest of the team. So listening to the presentations, I am even more proud to be a Landmarks Illinois volunteer and now the chair of the board. What this organization accomplishes is remarkable. To know that for over 50 years, the organization has helped people save over 24,000 historic places in surprising and impressive, but with over 5,000 requests for our free help each year, we can easily become overwhelmed. That's why we need all of you to help support us. We supplement our small but mighty staff with a team of over 130 volunteers from our board, committees, events, and pro bono service providers. I want to take a moment to give all of these generous and committed people, all of them, their due thanks. Some of you entered them into the chats, but I want to take this time now to say our effective organization and expansive impact is possible because of dedicated, wise, and passionate people who, as you see, Landmarks Illinois mission is very impressive. That includes our incredible board, our amazing staff, and all of you. Historic places are part of our community's unique identities, as well as our own. So they are important and they are worth saving. So thank you, all of you, our dedicated and generous supporters, for the many ways in which you donate towards making our impact possible. The more that I learn about what we do and how we do what we do with limited resources, the more I want to give. And I ask you to consider doing the same. That can be a monthly giver through our Sustaining Partnership membership program, as a program sponsor, or even as an annual corporate sponsor, an annual member, or Louis Sullivan, Society donor, an event attendee, a volunteer, or even an active social media follower. Many of you already do that. We thank our Louis Sullivan Society donors who are at our highest level of membership and give at the $1,000 per year level or more. And you can see, I have such a sore throat today. You can see on this slide our incredible annual corporate sponsors who also provide valued financial and pro bono service support. Thank you to all of those professionals who do the important work of preservation in the field. There are many ways that you can be part of our community and make a meaningful contribution, and whatever amount of time or resources that you have available, we appreciate. You can learn about all the ways to give that I just mentioned on our website, which is landmarks.org. You can easily read about how your donation is being put to work to help people save places through our email, print newsletters, and even social media. We know that there are big things ahead for preservation across our state and for Landmarks Illinois, and we're excited to share these with you. Now, there being no further business for the 53rd annual meeting, it is now adjourned. Thank you all for joining us and for your continued support of Landmarks Illinois. Together, we are people saving places for people. Enjoy your summer, and we hope to see you all soon.